The twin moons of Iris 9 hung low in the sky, casting silver and blue light across the jagged cliffs of the frontier world. The wind carried a strange metallic scent, mixed with dust and the faint temps of the planet's shallow seas. Captain Elias Wren crouched behind a broken transport shuttle, scanning the horizon through the scope of his rifle. His uniform was torn, stained with dust, and streaked with the sweat of a long trek. Every muscle ached, but his focus was absolute. Beside him, Dr. Mira Solon adjusted her portable scanner, muttering under her breath. She was human too, but unlike Elias, she did not carry a rifle. Her weapons were her mind, her knowledge of biology, alien cultures, and the strange ecosystems of the outer worlds. Today, those skills were as necessary as any gun. The colony on Iris 9 had been attacked without warning. An alien creature, tall and swift, had breached the perimeter and spread chaos. Many colonists were missing, trapped, or worse. The evacuation plan had fallen apart in minutes. And now Elias and Mira were the last two people known to be in the central sector. "Eli," Mira whispered, her voice tight. "I think I see movement near the cliffs." "Something's hunting us," Elias nodded, eyes narrowing. The creature moved in a strange rhythm, as if it understood the human fear of being hunted. "Stay close," he ordered, his voice low but firm. "If it gets too close, we make a run for the shuttle. No heroics." Mira glanced at him, and in that moment, she saw the same determination she had seen in him years ago when they trained together on another frontier world. There was bravery in him, yes, but also something more, something human. The kind of stubborn hope that refused to give up, even when survival seemed impossible. Hours passed in tense silence. The alien stalked them, unseen most of the time, leaving only footprints in the dust that shimmered under the twin moons. At one point, it lunged from behind a rock, but Elias was ready. With a swift, practiced motion, he fired a pulse shot. The creature shrieked and disappeared into the shadows. Breathing hard, Myra let out a shaky laugh. "You always know how to show off," she said. Her hand brushed against Ilias's arm, a gesture of gratitude and something unspoken. He looked at her, and for a brief second, the world narrowed to just the two of them. He remembered the long years they had spent together, learning to trust each other in life and death situations. "We're not out of this yet," he said, though there was a softness in his tone. The ground beneath them rumbled suddenly. A distant roar echoed across the cliffs. Dust and debris fell from the rock formations as the colony's main reactor, hit during the attack, began to fail. The timer on the portable scanner blinked red. "We have maybe 15 minutes before the whole sector goes critical," Mira said. Her voice was calm, but Elias could see the tension in her jaw. Elias clenched his fists. "Then we run. We survive. That's the only promise we can make right now." Mira shook her head, smiling despite the danger. "No, I want to make a real promise. Not about surviving. About after all this ends. You promised once, didn't you?" Elias frowned. "What promise?" Her eyes shone in the pale moonlight. "That you'd marry me someday? You laughed, but you said it, remember?" He blinked. For a moment, the chaos around them vanished. He remembered that night on the training station orbiting Lasara 7. They had watched the artificial auroras together, laughing at how humans always tried to make everything a ritual. He had made that joke promise in the middle of a storm simulator, trying to lighten the mood. "Someday," he had said, "if we make it through the training program, I'll marry you." "And we survived," she said, her voice soft but firm. "We made it through. So, someday?" Elias looked away, trying to mask the sudden warmth that rose in his chest. He cleared his throat. "Mira, focus. Right now, someday is surviving the night." But Mira shook her head. "No, I want to live like someday matters. Even here. Even now. I want a promise that isn't just words for fun. A promise that feels real, even if the world ends tonight." He sighed, torn between pragmatism and the pull of something deeper. "You always make things complicated," he muttered. There was a smile in his voice. They moved through the jagged terrain, keeping low, their hands brushing occasionally. In those brief touches, They shared more than words could express: a history of friendship, trust, and a bond that had been forged in fire. Blood and endless nights under alien stars. The edge of the cliffs loomed ahead, where the remains of the transport shuttles glinted in the pale light. Elias surveyed the area. One of these shuttles might still work. We can patch it enough to get off the planet. Then maybe. He trailed off, not finishing the thought, but Mira knew what he meant. She nodded, and her voice was steady. Then we survive. Together. They reached the shuttle, and Elias began work on the controls while Mira monitored the systems. Sparks flew, alarms beeped, and the wind howled around them. The creature that had stalked them appeared again, its glowing eyes fixed on their movement. Elias aimed, but Mira stopped him with a hand. Not now. Let it see us. It's curious. Maybe it won't attack if it sees we're together. Elias hesitated. Are you sure? She nodded. Trust me. The alien watched for a moment, then retreated, as if sensing the unspoken bond between the two humans. Elias exhaled. Well, I'll be damned. Your instincts work even under pressure. Mira laughed softly, leaning against the shuttle. Your skills work too. Maybe someday we'll use them to do something less deadly. Elias glanced at her, feeling the weight of years and memories in that glance. Maybe someday, he said quietly. As the shuttle powered up, the sky over Iris 9 began to change. The twin moons reflected on the ice and metal shards scattered across the cliffs, and for a moment, everything seemed still. They both looked at each other and smiled, sharing a fleeting moment of peace amid chaos. Someday, Mira whispered again. Almost to herself, Elias reached out, brushing a strand of dust-laden hair from her face. Then let's make sure we get there. Together. The shuttle's engines roared to life, vibrating beneath their feet. Elias piloted it with careful precision, lifting off just as the reactor's final warning blared. Below them, the cliffs crumbled, a reminder of the dangers they had survived. Above them, the stars stretched endlessly, different but beautiful. As they flew through the dark void, Mira settled beside him, her hand finding his. They didn't speak for a while. Words were unnecessary. The promise lingered between them, fragile thread of hope in a universe that often seemed cold and vast. Elias finally broke the silence. You know, Mira, that promise. I didn't think it would feel this important. Back then, it was just words to make each other laugh. Mira looked at him, her eyes reflecting the distant light of the moons and stars. Sometimes the words we say for fun turn out to be the most important. I've always believed that. I've always believed in us. He smiled, a rare and genuine smile. Then someday, we will make it real. She squeezed his hand, a silent agreement. Together, they stared out the shuttle's viewport at the stars. For the first time in a long time, they allowed themselves to hope not just to survive, but to dream of a life beyond war, danger, and fear. The universe was vast, full of threats and mysteries they could barely imagine. But as long as they had each other, they felt ready for anything. And somewhere deep in his heart, Elias realized that perhaps, just perhaps, the promise of someday could start now, even in the middle of chaos. Even on a dangerous alien world, the shuttle hummed softly as it ascended toward orbit. Outside, Iris 9 faded into a distant globe of ice and rock. Inside, two humans held on to a promise, a reminder that no matter how vast the galaxy, human hearts could shine brighter than any star. And for Elias and Mira, that was enough. The shuttle glided silently through the black expanse of space, carrying Elias Wren and Mira Solane toward the orbital station Aurora X, where humanity's most important diplomatic summit was about to begin. Outside the viewport, stars stretched endlessly, glittering like scattered diamonds, while distant nebulae painted clouds of color across the darkness. Inside, the hum of the engines was the only sound. Yet tension filled the cabin. Mira leaned back in her seat, scanning the ship's systems. Her mind was already racing ahead, thinking of the Saren Coalition representatives she would meet, their strange ways of negotiating, and the delicate diplomacy that could decide humanity's place in the galaxy. Elias noticed the intensity in her eyes. "You're thinking too much," he said lightly, though his voice carried concern. "We just left a near-death experience on Iris 9. Can't we breathe for a minute?" Myra smiled faintly, but didn't look away from the monitor. "I can breathe, Elias, but I can't forget. The Coalition doesn't take humans lightly, and neither should we." He leaned back and let out a slow breath. "I know, but whatever happens, we'll face it together." Just like on Iris 9, she glanced at him, and for a moment, she saw the man she had promised herself too long ago, the brave, stubborn, and deeply human man who had always found a way through impossible odds. Her voice softened. "Eli, about that promise," he turned to her, eyebrows raised. "Mira, now? Really?" "Yes, I need to know. Is someday? Today?" Elias blinked, caught off guard. The words hung between them like a fragile bubble in the vast emptiness of space. He had thought about that moment, dreamed about it quietly in stolen seconds between missions, but hearing her ask it now, so seriously, made his chest tighten. Before he could answer, an alarm blared. The ship jolted violently, throwing them against their seats. The console flashed red, distress signal, A-Hall Syndics, intercepting. Elise's jaw tightened. "We've got company." "Hold on." Outside the viewport, shadows moved against the stars. Small, fast vessels, sleek, black, and aggressive, darted toward the shuttle. The Via-Hall Syndics, a rogue faction notorious across human-settled space, had detected the shuttle's trajectory. Their reputation for sabotage and chaos was well known, and they had no interest in allowing the summit to proceed peacefully. Mira gripped the edge of her seat. "They're trying to stop us, aren't they?" Elias nodded. "Looks like it. Buckle up. We're going to have to get creative." For the next few tense minutes, Elias piloted the shuttle with precision, weaving through the oncoming fighters. He fired countermeasures, dodged blasts, and used the shuttle's agility to its full advantage. Mira assisted by hacking into the Syndic signal network, scrambling their targeting systems. The battle outside the viewport seemed endless, but eventually the Syndics gave up the chase. The shuttle shook from one last impact before stabilizing in orbit near Aurora X. Elias exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I hate it when someday gets interrupted by bad guys." Mira laughed nervously. "Maybe someday is always dangerous then." They docked at the station, the metallic doors sliding open to reveal the human delegation bustling with activity. Representatives hurried to and fro, carrying data pads and holographic files. Beyond the station's large viewport, the Saren Coalition ships glimmered all elegant and unmistakably alien. Their curved hulls and iridescent surfaces made the human ships seem simple by comparison. Elias and Myra were escorted to the summit hall, a massive chamber with walls that shimmered like liquid metal. Here, humans and Saren delegates would discuss trade, peace treaties, and cooperation across galaxies. Mira had studied the Saren culture for years. They were logical, precise, and deeply cautious traits that often clashed with human emotion and spontaneity. The lead Saren diplomat, Blair, observed the humans closely. His large, multifaceted eyes scanned Elias and Mira with what seemed like curiosity. Elias felt a strange chill. He had faced countless battles. But diplomacy with aliens was a different kind of war. Vaylor's voice echoed, melodic yet cold. "Humans, you arrive late, yet unscathed. How do you manage such?" "Improbabilities?" Elias straightened, forcing a smile. "We adapt. That's what humans do." Vaylor tilted his head. "Adaptation. Efficient. But there is something more." "I observe a bond between you two." Mira stepped forward. "Yes, that bond helps us work together and survive. It's human." The alien's gaze lingered. "Intriguing. Humans rely on emotional connections to strengthen tactical decisions. Logical, yet unconventional." Elias whispered to Mira. "See? I told you our relationship had strategic value." She chuckled. "Glad someone finally appreciates my talents." Just as tension began to ease, alarms blared throughout Aurora X. The station shook as if the very walls were warning of danger. A holographic screen flickered to life, showing multiple points of conflict across human-controlled systems. The Syndics were striking simultaneously, attempting to sabotage the summit before it began. Elias felt his pulse quicken. Looks like the Syndics are really serious. We can't let them succeed. Mira nodded, scanning the data. If they disrupt this summit, humanity risks losing its standing with the coalition. We have to stop them. The lead human diplomat, Admiral Kane, approached. Ren, Solane, I need you to lead a joint task force with the Saren delegates. You've already proven you can survive impossible odds. Now, I need you to show that humans can protect more than themselves. Elias exchanged a glance with Mira. The weight of responsibility settled on their shoulders, but neither hesitated. We're ready, Elias said. Mira added. Let's make sure the summit happens. Humanity can't afford failure. As the human Saren task force assembled, the aliens observed Elias and Mira closely. Some whispered among themselves, human resilience is fascinating. They bond in ways we do not. They risk their lives for emotional connections, yet it grants them strength. Elias felt a mix of pride and unease. Humans were different. Yes. Emotional, unpredictable, sometimes reckless. But that unpredictability often turned the tide in impossible situations. The Syndics underestimated human creativity and courage at their own peril. The team's mission was clear. Intercept the Syndics before they could sabotage the summit, and secure key systems on Aurora X. Elias piloted a fast response shuttle. While Mira coordinated strategies with both human and Saren officers, the journey took them into a sector of space thick with debris and asteroid fields, a perfect cover for the Syndics' hidden outposts. Navigating through the field? Elias muttered, I hate flying through debris. Feels like walking through a cosmic minefield, Mira smiled faintly. You survived Iris 9. How different can a few floating rocks be? Elias grinned, though tension remained. True, but if one of these rocks punctures the hull, well, someday might end sooner than expected. The task force reached the coordinates where the Syndics were detected. Their ships were camouflaged, almost invisible against the dark void of space. Mira analyzed the signals, finding weak spots in their energy shields. We can approach from multiple angles, she suggested. Use both human unpredictability and Saren precision. They won't know what hit them, Elias nodded. Sounds like a plan. Let's remind them why humans survive. The battle that followed was swift and chaotic. Syndic fighters fired with precision, but Elias and the humans moved unpredictably, weaving through the asteroids. Mira directed energy pulses that temporarily disabled Syndic shields. The Saren delegates coordinated their advanced targeting systems with Elias's instinctive maneuvers, creating a combination of human creativity and alien efficiency that the Syndics could not counter in the chaos. Mira noticed a Syndic ship heading toward Aurora X's docking bay, intent on sabotage. Elias, that one's going for the station. Elias banked sharply, cutting through the debris. With a daring maneuver, he intercepted the ship, disabling its engines just meters from the station. The explosion was contained, and the rest of the Syndics retreated into the darkness. Their plans thwarted. Breathing hard, Elias exhaled. Not bad for a couple of humans and a bunch of aliens working together. Mira laughed, shaking her head. We might actually get through this summit in one piece. As they returned to the station, Elias finally turned to Mira. About that question, is someday. Today, she looked at him, waiting. He smiled softly but with certainty. Maybe someday is now. Maybe surviving all of this together, is the first step towards someday? Mira's eyes glimmered with relief and joy. Then we take that first step, together. For the first time in months, Elias allowed himself to feel hope beyond survival. The galaxy was dangerous, full of unpredictable threats. But humans had something the Syndics and even the Saren did not fully understand. The power of human connection, courage, and heart. And that power, he realized, could change the galaxy. As the shuttle docked and the team prepared to brief the summit delegates, Elias and Mira shared a silent promise. Someday was no longer a distant dream. It was becoming real, one brave choice at a time. The joint human-Sarin task force left Aurora X orbit, heading toward the Nebula of Echoes, a dense and mysterious region of space where signals twisted and ship sensors often failed. It was an ideal hiding place for the Syndics, and it had earned its name because even light seemed to bend strangely. Creating echoes of distant stars, Elias piloted the lead shuttle carefully, weaving between swirling gas clouds and asteroid fragments that floated like ghosts. Mira sat beside him, analyzing data streams and cross-checking Sarin navigation systems. Despite their differences, humans and aliens were learning to work together. The aliens relied on logic, sensors, and precise calculations, while humans relied on intuition, creativity, and sometimes sheer stubbornness. Together, the combination was powerful. This nebula? It's worse than I imagined, Mira said, her voice steady but tense. Sensors are bouncing signals everywhere. We can't trust anything the computers tell us. Everything is delayed, Elias chuckled lightly. Welcome to human ingenuity territory. When the machines fail, we find another way. No. They entered a particularly thick area where the nebula glowed with faint green light. The shuttle shuddered as the atmosphere's electromagnetic interference disrupted the engines. Hold on, Elias warned, gripping the controls. Sparks flew along the console as they maneuvered through the dense clouds. Mira's eyes scanned the readings. If we follow these patterns, she pointed at irregular pulses on the display, we might locate the Syndic's hidden outposts. They're masking their presence, but every system leaves a trail. We just have to read it differently. Elias smiled. See? Told you humans have tricks machines can't replicate. Myra shook her head but smiled back. Don't let it get to your ego. As they approached the coordinates, faint silhouettes appeared in the nebula. Small black Syndic ships hovered among the swirling gas clouds, almost invisible. The task force slowed, forming a loose perimeter to avoid being surrounded. The Sarin delegates communicated in a series of precise tones. Elias tried to keep up, translating their instructions into movements the human shuttles could follow. It was tricky, but he trusted Myra's judgment, and she trusted him. Suddenly, Syndic fighter appeared directly ahead, aiming at the lead shuttle. Elias twisted the controls, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. Sparks erupted outside the hull as laser fire scorched the shuttle's armor. Eli, on your left, Mira shouted, pointing at another fighter emerging from the nebula's shadow. With instinct and experience, Elias banked sharply, firing back with pulse cannons. A bright flash illuminated the nebula, reflecting off swirling gas clouds like fireworks. The Syndic ship spun out of control, giving the task force a brief advantage. The battle continued in waves. Syndic fighters moved unpredictably, using the nebula's interference to hide their true numbers. Elias relied on human intuition, watching patterns, predicting movement, and trusting gut instinct rather than sensor data alone. Myra coordinated energy pulses to disrupt enemy shields, guiding the ships like a conductor with a baton through the chaos. Elias noticed something strange. A smaller, faster ship was heading straight for the largest asteroid cluster. Mira, that one's different. It's faster and stronger. They're hiding something important. Idra's fingers flew across her console. It's carrying advanced tech. Something that could sabotage Aurora X if it reaches the summit. We have to stop it. Elias nodded. Then let's do it. Using a risky maneuver, Elias weaved the shuttle through the asteroid cluster, dodging rocks and energy blasts. He caught up to the Syndic ship and fired a precise pulse shot, disabling its engines. The ship spiraled into a safe crash landing on a nearby asteroid. Mira exhaled sharply. Nice work. But this is only the beginning. There are more. Elias leaned back, wiping sweat from his brow. Humans don't give up that easily. Neither do our allies. They regrouped with the Sarin ships, analyzing the nebula for additional threats. The Syndics were using the environment to hide, but Elias and Myra's teamwork allowed them to read subtle disturbances in the nebula, something the Sarin delegates admitted they had not expected. Valor. The lead Saren diplomat spoke through the communication panel. Humans, your unpredictability and emotional connection. It is remarkable. It grants strength we do not understand fully, Leah smirked. Glad to know we're impressive. Now, let's finish the mission. The task force pushed deeper into the nebula of echoes. Signals bounced unpredictably, creating false readings and phantom ships. Even the most advanced Saren systems struggled to interpret the environment. But Elias and Myra adapted, using patterns of energy, light, and sound that only human intuition could recognize. Hours passed, tension mounting. The nebula's strange environment made every maneuver dangerous. One wrong move, and a ship could be lost forever. Yet Elias and Myra pressed on, leading the human Saren fleet with courage, quick thinking, and relentless determination. Finally, they located the main Syndic base, concealed inside a massive asteroid floating like a shadow. Its energy shields flickered, showing slight weaknesses. Myra studied the readings. We can penetrate their defenses if we coordinate carefully. Humans approach from irregular angles, they won't predict us. Saren ships provide precise support. It's our best chance, Elias nodded. All right. Let's show them why humans survive and why we don't give up. The attack plan was risky. The nebula of echoes would make communication difficult, timing crucial. But the human heart had a way of pushing beyond fear. Elias trusted Myra's calculations, and Myra trusted his instincts. Together, they were unstoppable. As the shuttles advanced, the Syndics opened fire. Lasers cut through the green mist of the nebula, and explosions lit up the dark void. The battle was chaotic, loud and dangerous, but the humans remained calm. Using creativity where logic could not solve the problem, Elias led a daring assault directly through the asteroid's natural openings. A path the Syndics had assumed was impossible. The maneuver surprised the enemy, allowing the task force to disable several ships before they could escape. Myra focused on the base's energy shield. Just a little more there. She sent a pulse through the nebula's interference, creating a temporary opening. The shuttles rushed in, targeting critical systems. Inside the asteroid, the Syndic's defenses faltered. Energy shields failed, engines overheated, and weapon systems shut down. Elias and Myra's combination of human intuition and Saren precision had worked. As the base's control systems fell silent, Elias took a deep breath. We did it. At least this part. Myra smiled, a rare moment of relief shining in her eyes. Humans adapt. Humans survive. And when humans and allies work together, we're unstoppable. Vaylor's voice came through again, softer this time, almost in admiration. Humans, your strength is not only in your technology or tactics, it is in your connections, your courage, and your willingness to risk everything for each other. This is remarkable. Elias glanced at Myra. See? I told you. We're special. She laughed softly, shaking her head. Don't get too proud, Captain. We still have a mission to complete. Aurora X is waiting, and the Syndics may try something else. Elias nodded, his smile fading into focus. Right, let's finish this, and then. Someday we'll celebrate, Myra. Someday. Myra reached over, brushing his hand with a gentle touch. Someday is coming, and maybe it's closer than you think. The fleet left the nebula of echoes, carrying the captured Syndic technology and the proof that humans could face impossible odds with courage and ingenuity. The journey back to Aurora X was tense but hopeful. The stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to human bravery and the growing bond between Elias and Myra as they approached the station. Myra studied the nebula fading behind them. We made it through? Together. Elias nodded. Together. That's what matters. Humans survive. Humans adapt. Humans care. That's why someday can start now. Myra smiled at him, their hands brushing once more. Then, maybe someday. Is today? Elias looked out the viewport at the glittering stars, feeling something he had almost forgotten amid battles and survival. Hope. Not just the hope to survive, but hope for a future full of challenges, but also full of possibility. A future humans could shape, not just endure. The nebula of echoes faded behind them, leaving the task force in the calm, steady light of open space. And for Elias and Mira, the echoes of the nebula reminded them of what they already knew. Together, humans could face anything the universe dared to throw at them. Someday was no longer far away. It was beginning now. Aurorex station floated quietly in orbit, its metallic rings turning slowly like a giant silver flower above the blue-white planet below. But inside the station, tension filled every corridor. The Syndic's attack in the Nebula of Echoes had shaken everyone. Humans and Saren officers hurried through the halls, speaking urgently, analyzing data. Preparing defenses, Elias and Mira walked together toward the main summit hall. Their boots echoing against the polished floor, the air smelled faintly of metal and coolant, a reminder that this place was both a sanctuary and a battlefield. Mira held a small data pad, scanning reports from the nebula. "They're not done," she said quietly. "The Syndics are regrouping. They want to break the alliance before it officially begins." Elias nodded, jaw tight. "They know if humans and the Saren form a real partnership, they'll lose power. We have to stop whatever they're planning next." As they entered the summit hall, representatives from both sides were already gathered. The Saren diplomats, tall and graceful, stood in calm formation. Humans, on the other hand, moved with restless energy-checking screens. Whispering urgently, constantly preparing for any threat, Baylor, the Saren leader, stepped forward. His eyes glowed softly under the hall's blue lighting. "Captain Elias Wren, Dr. Mira Solane, your success in the nebula has strengthened our trust in humanity. But the Syndics remain a threat." Elias crossed his arms. "What's their next move?" Admiral Kane appeared behind Valar, holding a holotablet. "We intercepted encrypted signals. The Syndics are preparing a coordinated strike on multiple stations, including this one. If they succeed, the summit will fail, and humanity may lose its chance at peace with the Saren coalition." Ara frowned. "How long do we have?" "Hours," Kane replied. "Maybe less." A heavy silence settled over the hall. War was coming. Not open war, but sabotage, confusion, targeted attacks. The kind of conflict humans knew too well. Elias stepped forward confidently. "Then we don't wait for them. We strike first. And we do it together, humans and Saren." The Saren delegates exchanged glances. It was rare for them to consider preemptive action. Their culture valued caution and analysis over instinct. But Vaylor nodded slowly. "Perhaps humanity's boldness is needed here." Mira felt a spark of pride. Humans had always been underestimated, emotional, unpredictable, too quick to act. But in moments like this, those traits became strengths. The plan that only humans could create, Myra and Elias led the joint strategic meeting. Holographic maps flickered above the table, showing the station nearby sectors. Syndic movements. Mira explained the problem. The Syndics are using stealth technology to sneak drones into key systems' reactor cores. Communication hubs, shield generators. If even one drone succeeds, the station could lose power or protection. Vaylor tilted his head. "Your machines cannot detect these drones." Elias shook his head. "The Syndics designed them to be invisible to sensors. But they're not invisible to humans who know how to think sideways." "Sideways?" A Saren guard repeated, confused. Mira smiled. "It means humans don't always follow straight logic. We find unusual solutions," Saren observed quietly. Humans were puzzling creatures, intuitive, emotional, but undeniably effective. Elias leaned over the table. "We need to create a distraction. Something big. Something they can't ignore. While they're focused on that, we'll track the drones manually. No sensors, no machines, just humans watching for tiny inconsistencies." Admiral Kane raised an eyebrow. "Manual tracking? That sounds impossible." "It is," Elias agreed, "for most people. But not for the two of us." Mira nodded. "And not for the Saren. Their vision picks up energy patterns humans can't see. If we combine strengths, Maybe we can catch the drones. Valor considered this. A strategy mixing instinct and precision. Unusual, but perhaps effective. The plan took shape quickly. Human engineers modified ventilation shafts and power corridors, narrowing space to funnel the drones. Saren warriors positioned themselves in key junctions, ready to intercept. Mira programmed a false energy surge meant to lure the syndics into thinking the station had a weak point. It was a gamble. But humans were used to gambling with fate. The syndic assault against Rorex darkened as the station entered alert mode. Emergency lights glowed red along the corridors. Elias and Mira stood side by side, waiting for the first sign of syndic infiltration. "Feel ready?" Elias asked. Mira smiled slightly. "I haven't felt ready since Iris 9, but with you, I'm not afraid." His chest warmed at her words. "Good, because we're going to need each other." Alarms began ringing. Tiny shadows darted across the metal floor, syndic drones, moving fast like insects. Their small engines made soft buzzing sounds. Mira pointed. "It's there." Two, coming from the west corridor. Leah sprinted forward, sliding under a low rail and smashing his fist into one drone, sending sparks flying. Another drone sped upward, but a Saren warrior leaped gracefully, grabbing it midair and crushing it. More drones emerged. Mira sent a burst of harmless energy pulses, causing them to scatter. Elias trained his pulse pistol, shooting down 3 in a row. The Saren warriors watched his fluid movements with fascination. Humans reacted with speed that didn't always follow logic, yet it worked. Valor approached. "Your reactions are unpredictable." "Thanks," Elias replied breathlessly. "I think," Mira laughed, despite the danger. "It's a compliment. Saren appreciates stability. Humans appreciate chaos." "Chaos," Valor repeated. "A human specialty." The station shook as the syndics launched a second wave, larger, stronger drones that targeted the reactor core. Myra's eyes widened. "They're trying to overload the core." Elias grabbed her hand. "We're not letting that happen." "Come on." A battle of heart and instinct, they raced through the corridor toward the core chamber. The walls vibrated from energy pulses. The air grew hot. Syndic drones clustered around the core, attaching magnetic devices designed to destabilize it. Mira shouted orders. "Saren, take the left flank. Elias and I will handle the right." The Saren obeyed instantly, trusting her leadership. Elias darted forward, firing precise shots. Myra dodged laser bursts, throwing small EMP pulses to disable drones without damaging the core. The teamwork was flawless, instinct and logic blending in perfect harmony. But one drone slipped past them, heading straight for the central reactor node. Myra's eyes widened. "Elias." Without thinking, Elias threw himself forward, catching the drone mid-flight. Energy crackled across his arms, knocking him down. Mira rushed to him, heart pounding. "Eli, are you okay?" He groaned. "Yeah. Just need a second." That thing had a strong kick. She helped him up, her hand shaking slightly. "Don't ever scare me like that again," he smiled weakly. "No promises." The last few drones were destroyed. The reactor stabilized. Silence returned, tense but peaceful. Valor and the Saren guards approached. "You humans, you risk yourselves for each other without hesitation. This is something we do not understand." Mira looked at Elias, her voice warm. "Humans fight hardest when they have something or someone worth protecting." Elias met her eyes. In that moment, the world around them faded. The aftermath and the realization with the Syndic attack stopped.
Oh.
The summit resumed. Humans and Saren representatives gathered again, this time with newfound respect. Admiral Kane praised the joint efforts. Valor spoke of humanity's courage. For once, the galaxy felt united. Later, when the halls were quiet, Elias and Myra walked to the observation deck. Outside, stars glowed softly. Ships drifted by peacefully. Mira leaned against the window. "You know, when I asked earlier, is someday today?" I wasn't joking. Elias stepped closer. "I know, so..." She turned to him, eyes gentle yet expectant. He exhaled slowly. Mira, today we saved a station. We saved the Alliance. We stopped a war. But the thing that scared me most was the thought of losing you. Her breath caught. He continued quietly, so yes, maybe some days today. Soft smile spread across her face. Then someday begins now. They stood together, watching the stars. Two humans whose courage and bond had changed the course of a galaxy. War might return. Danger might rise again. But whatever came next, they would face it together. Aurora X Station gleamed in the quiet glow of the sector's star field. The summit hall was buzzing with activity, though the tension that had filled it for days had finally eased. Thanks to the Human Seran Task Force, the Syndic threat had been neutralized, and negotiations were progressing smoothly. For the first time in a long while, hope felt real. Elias Wren walked beside Mira Solane through the observation deck corridor. Outside the windows, the galaxy stretched endlessly, a canvas of stars, nebulae, and distant planets. After the chaos of the Nebula of Echoes and the daring defense of the station, it felt almost peaceful. Mira glanced at Elias. It's strange. Seeing the stars and knowing we survived everything, somehow I never imagined someday would feel so close. Elias smiled, brushing a hand across the railing. Someday is funny that way. You spend years chasing it, imagining what it might be, and then sometimes it's right in front of you. Mira stopped and turned to him, eyes shining. Eli, is someday really today? He took a deep breath. Memories of Iris 9, the nebula, and the station flooding back. Every moment of danger, every decision, every tiny heartbeat of courage they had led to this. The promise he had made under alien moons, once a playful joke, had become something meaningful. Something real, maybe, he said softly. Someday starts when you realize you can't wait any longer. Myra reached out and took his hand. Then let's start today. The sound of the station's announcements reminded them of the summit still in progress. But for a moment, time seemed to pause. They didn't need words, just the comfort of presence. Elias squeezed her hand, feeling warmth and certainty that had been missing for too long. The celebration of unity. The summit hall had transformed into a scene of cautious optimism. Humans and Seran delegates mingled, sharing information, laughter, and ideas. The Syndic's attack had inadvertently strengthened trust between the two civilizations. Humanity's resilience and creativity had won admiration from the Seran. The alliance felt stronger than anyone had imagined possible. Admiral Kane approached Elias and Mira. I have to admit, you two exceeded all expectations. Humans adapt, yes, but you inspire. The Seran are beginning to see the value of our people beyond our technology. Valor, standing nearby, added Elias Wren Mira Solane. Your actions demonstrated human courage and ingenuity. Your bond, your trust in each other, strengthened our confidence in this alliance. It is remarkable. Mira smiled. We just did what humans do best. We care. We fight for what matters, and we don't give up. Elias laughed softly. Careful, Myra. You might convince the Seran we're heroes or something. Valor's voice was calm, but sincere. Perhaps humans are heroes in ways we have not understood. Until now. A moment of reflection later. When the crowd thinned, Elias and Mira stepped outside to the observation deck. The twin moons of the nearby planet reflected on the station's metallic hull. Casting a serene glow across the floor, Myra leaned against the railing. It's strange. All of this. The summit. The battles. The negotiations. And yet, here we are, alive. Elias looked at her, his expression softening. I've realized something. Humans survive because we don't just rely on technology or training or luck. We survive because we care about each other, about hope, about the future. And sometimes that makes all the difference. Mira reached up, brushing a loose strand of hair from his forehead. Then I guess. This is what makes someday possible, smiled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. Yes, someday isn't just a promise. It's action. It's choosing each other, no matter what the galaxy throws at us. She laughed softly. So, are we choosing today? Today, he said firmly, The proposal Elias reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, simple band of metal, a human-made piece designed for durability, a reminder of resilience. It was polished, elegant, and unassuming, much like the man himself. Myra's eyes widened. Eli, is that he took her hands in his, holding them gently. Mira Solane, I promised you someday under alien stars. During a time when survival was uncertain, when we didn't know if we'd live through the night. But I've realized, someday doesn't wait. Someday is now. Will you marry me? For a moment, the station, the galaxy, and even the stars seemed to hold their breath. Myra's lips curved into a radiant smile, and tears of relief and joy glistened in her eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Elias. Today is our someday. He slid the ring onto her finger, and they stood together, hands intertwined, looking out at the endless expanse of the galaxy. Their bond, forged in fire and adversity, had grown stronger than any threat. The galaxy watches unknown to them. Across the station and into nearby sectors, sensors on the Saren and human ships recorded the moment. Observers, both human and alien, noted the strength of the human connection, the courage, loyalty, and emotional resilience that Elias and Mira embodied. Valor, observing from a distance, spoke softly to another Saren delegate. Humans, they are unpredictable. They survive through bonds, through emotion, through instinct. Their hearts are weapons as powerful as any technology we possess. Admiral Kane, watching from the human delegation, nodded. It's what makes humanity stand out in the galaxy. We're not the strongest in numbers or technology, but when we fight for each other, for hope, no one can match us. The story of Elias and Myra, their courage and love, would travel far. It would become an example of why humanity was not just surviving in the galaxy, but thriving. A tale of the human heart prevailing over chaos, of ingenuity winning against impossible odds, and of bonds that no enemy could break. New beginnings, the summit concluded successfully. Treaties were signed, alliances strengthened, and the Syndic threat was contained, at least for now. But for Elias and Mira, the galaxy suddenly felt smaller, warmer, and full of possibility. In the quiet moments after the summit, they walked the observation deck together, sharing dreams of what could come next. Colonies to explore, worlds to save, discoveries to make, and a life together that was theirs to choose. Elias glanced at Mira, a small, confident grin on his face. You know, I never imagined that someday would feel like this. Not so real, so close. Not like home. Myra squeezed his hand. That's because home isn't a place. It's who you choose to stand beside no matter where you are. Then wherever we go, we're home. The twin moons glimmered against the distant stars, a reminder of promises kept and challenges overcome. For Elias and Mira, the universe was vast, full of dangers, but also filled with hope and love. Someday, Mira whispered, leaning against him. Yes, Elias replied softly. Someday is today. And with that, they turned to face the stars, hands intertwined, ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them. Together, brave, human, alive. Because sometimes, the greatest victories aren't measured by battles won, or empires conquered, or treaties signed. Sometimes, the greatest victory is the human heart itself, unbroken, and capable of changing the universe simply by refusing to give up on love, hope, and each other. Elias and Mira had survived impossible odds. They had faced alien threats, rogue factions, and the vast unknown. And now, at last, they had found a victory no one could take away. Someday had become today. And in that moment, the galaxy seemed just a little brighter,